Good evening. My name is Jumoke Akintelo, and I'm the hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cherise Waiters is the clerk for this hearing. The hearing is being recorded, so please contact us through Urban Forestry. The contact information is on the agenda. This public hearing is being held for order number 207679 to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 3600 Jackson Street. Staff denied the removal and applicant appealed. The second hearing order number is 207680, and this is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 2555 Leavenworth Street. Staff also denied the removal and applicant has appealed. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing items, listen to your testimonies, and help the Director of Public Works make a decision. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I'll forward my findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determination. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them. Therefore, if you want to be notified, I guess you would let BOF know. There isn't a sign-in sheet here. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first, present the item, give us an overall view of the permit application process, and describe how the application arrived at today's hearing. Afterwards, I would have speakers in the following order. 1, I'll ask that protesters who submitted written comments come up to speak. 2, anyone supporting the protester will speak next. Then I will give the applicant a chance to speak and to answer any of the protesters' comments. Then anyone supporting the applicant will speak next. Then lastly, any city agency, including Public Works, can speak and comment on any of the speakers. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers. When you hear the first bell, it will mean the speaker has 30 seconds left to speak. A louder second bell will signal that time is up. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or to the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimonies to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. Now we will begin the hearing. Order number 207679. May I have Public Works make its presentation? Susan, before you do that, Cherise, we got a document that we're supposed to acknowledge at this hearing.
Yes, that is correct. I am not certain how we needed to address that. Maybe, Susan, did they tell you how they wanted us to present it?
Maybe during public comments?
We don't typically address the written comments.
I mean, to present it.
We don't typically present written comments at the public hearing, but we consider the written comments when with the resulting decision.
So what I'll do is I'll just acknowledge that we received something from, during public comments.
And we can go into, you can briefly, I can potentially also, I think one of the members of the public who may have signed one of the documents is here, so they'll probably also comment on it.
Perfect. All right. So,
and then
apologies,
also,
Susan.
Before we start with the hearing order, we also do need to have order number 2, public comment.
Order number 2, public comments.
Yes.
Okay. So let's start off with that order number. Members of the public may address the hearing officer or matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. So do we have any public comments not related to items on the agenda today? I don't see any hands up. So in the absence of that, in the absence of public comments on items not on the agenda, Susan, may I have you present, please?
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Susan Nawberry. I'm Bureau Urban Forestry Inspector, Urban Forestry Inspector, and I'll be presenting the cases tonight. We have a brief interlude here, a brief intro. So it's just our tree ordinance establishes authorization and standards for addressing a range of issues regarding trees. San Francisco's urban forestry ordinance is codified under Article 16 of the Public Works Code. In our strategic plan, our number one goal is to ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure in the public right of way. Our urban forestry ordinance states our mission, and it's to preserve and grow the urban forest while balancing safety and the needs of the growing and evolving city. A removal permit is required to remove street trees and significant trees, which is why we are here tonight. And we updated our ordinance in February of 2022. If the department is removing a tree, a replacement is required within 120 days or added and tracked on a delayed replacement report. If the tree cannot be replaced in situ, then it must be replanted at a nearby location. However, this doesn't apply to permit applications. If a property owner or applicant is granted a removal permit, the department shall require a replacement street tree of equivalent value to the one removed or imposed an in lieu fee. But if there isn't room for like the replacement tree, and say the applicant isn't doing development, it's like damaging their foundation, we have to submit in writing why we waive either of those requirements, and that's stated in the code. Yeah, so street tree SF, very briefly, we've completed our first cycle. It's almost more than half the city, which is great. We do prune trees in order of worst first. More than 64,000 street trees have been pruned. And it kind of, the reason why the map looks like this is because the trees that are highest priority were done first. Which kind of like leads me into why we deny, approve applications for removal. So the first order, 207-679 3600 Jackson Street. The case is for the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 3600 Jackson, and staff deny the removal and the applicant appeal. So it's one London plane tree, a Platanus hispanica, and it is pollarded. It's a lot of work to get a tree to look like this. It's pollarded at the nursery when it's very, very young. It develops these very calloused knuckles at the point where the tree is pruned. You can't do this to a mature tree. And the applicant applied for both trees, the tree on the right and the tree on the left. The tree on the left is a lot smaller. It met our criteria for removal. However, the tree on the right does not meet our criteria, and you can actually see it has a very large diameter. So although, you know, we struggle with the idea of pollarded trees because you're constantly pruning it, constantly maintaining it, constantly removing the new growth, it does have a lot of diameter that it has put on, which points to the fact that it has a lot of like reserved energy and starches to produce growth and help. So it didn't really meet our criteria for removal at this time. So I mean, it will have canopy in the summer in theory. And I think that it would be fair to wait until like April, I mean, it depends, to see if the tree leaves out. And sometimes the latent buds are a little later. And I see that the replacement proposed is the Tristania larina. That is a very small stature tree that takes a very long time to establish. So I don't think we would approve that replacement tree. And our code gives us the authority to do so. Our code and our director's order for planting basically mandates that we plant the largest possible replacement tree appropriate for a site. And yeah, this site has pretty wide sidewalks. It has a lot of space and it has no high voltage lines. So I don't think we're going to approve the Laurinas. What would be approved is the same species, but not pollarded. So, you know, we want to grow the canopy and we don't want to remove trees unnecessarily. I mean, as we said, this practice of pollarding does reduce the benefit of trees overall, but you know, in this case, the tree on the right does have like a larger diameter and it does have that stored carbon. So it is something to think about when weighing like the approval and the removal here. So here's the smaller tree on the left. It has decay, it's not compartmentalizing, which for Platanus is fairly rare. We only really see this decay issue in pollarded Platanus because you know, you're constantly topping it. But the tree on the right doesn't really have that issue. So I would like to see how it's doing now in terms of sprouting and how much growth it has, and maybe wait until the tree sprouts again. I mean, we might consider, instead of like going through a whole new application process, to say when the application, if the hearing officer denies this removal, we'll say, well, like, okay, if it turns out it did die before summer, before it's supposed to leaf out, then we would use the same application and post it, rather than going through the whole application process again. But would have to check and see. I mean, the application technically is good for like a year, but you know, we think that's a good middle ground, is to just like wait and see if the tree actually needs to be removed and doesn't leaf out. So here's a replacement plan. There is a replacement plan, so that is good. We just don't agree with the replacement species. So, I mean, well, like my colleague said, she couldn't confirm that the tree is dead or severe decline. Like you can like check the cambium and see if it's still green and alive, but a more surefire way of seeing if every one of those stems is alive is to just wait till it sprouts. So yeah, this isn't a very high priority removal, and we would not consider a removal candidate for CHSF. And so the inspector denied it, you know, essentially be consistent with how we approach tree removals in the city. Okay, so that concludes 3600 Jackson Street. So it includes the department's presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up to the, do we have any protesters or anyone opposing this application, the denial of this application, protesting it on this one? Please raise your hand if, okay. In the absence of that, I'm going to open it up for public comments. But before I open it up for public comments, Susan, I have a question. If you could just go back to the other slide, I think the slide before this one, where you said that it was denied to be consistent. Yes. So, so the owner or the applicant wants to replace this tree with two healthier trees in the hopes of increasing canopy coverage?
That's the idea, but I mean, if the tree on the right is healthy and they want to replace it with Laurina, there's not going to be like a net gain of canopy, because the tree on the right has a larger diameter and therefore more stored carbon and larger scaffolding branches. So when the tree on the right leaves out, compared to a new small Tristania laurina, it's not going to have less canopy than the replacement tree. Even if you plant like a 36-inch box Laurina, you're not going to get the same canopy as the tree on the right. Even though it's pollarded, it's still fairly large and established. And I don't think we can actually confirm that it's in poor condition. It hasn't leafed out. So I think it would be better to confirm that it actually is in poor condition when it leaves out.
So that is in sometime, you're looking at April, May?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of weird with flatness in the city. Like some years they'll leaf out in March and some years they'll leaf out in April or May.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say we'll wait until like April and then reconsider. Is that what you're proposing? That's what I mean. That's what I heard. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I'm proposing that I mean, you can make a decision, but I'm proposing that like I'm proposing that like it would be better to wait until April to see if the tree is actually a removal candidate.
Got it. So that's what I wanted to clarify. Okay. So we have Meg. Meg's hand is up. Do you want to promote her to?
So is Meg the applicant?
Meg, yes. Thank you, Meg. Sorry, we've been having some technical difficulties today and there was delays. Did you have anything that you want to share today or did you want to speak only?
I do have items I would like to share.
Okay, so just one moment. I'm going to promote you to panelist and you'll accept the invitation. And once you come back over, you'll need to unmute yourself once again, okay?
Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
is Meg the applicant or?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
We can
hello.
hear you.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
you can hear
I can
me.
hear and see you.
Okay, great.
Okay. And then, Susan,
And may I share my screen?
yes, you may.
So the Sharice, her time starts when she starts sharing her screen?
Yes, as soon as she's
Okay.
begins speaking, you will
Okay.
have 3 minutes. Susan, are you able to, can you lower your screen or stop your screen share?
Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
We can see you.
We can see you, but not the screen. Yes, now it's beginning. There we go.
Okay, great. So some of my images Susan already shared, so I'll breeze through the first portion. I applied on behalf of KWI, the design firm that I work for, Kate Webster Inc., for the property owner. Her name is Ursula Ralph. She's lived at 3600 Jackson Street for a very long time. It butts up right against Presidio Park. And after the initial application where we submitted a report by Christopher Campbell, an arborist, including the existing site plan, our proposed site plan, our proposed
So
tree,
Meg, you may want
and
to
why
turn
we
off your
thought these
camera.
trees should be removed.
You're dragging, or is it me?
What is that?
You were dragging, I couldn't hear, or is
No,
it me?
I was scrolling through. I was scrolling through.
No, it's not that. It happened to me as well, but we were unable to hear you.
Okay.
So,
So
think
if
it
you can turn
froze.
off your camera, that sometimes increases the bandwidth
Okay,
and your voice comes clearer.
okay.
Okay, better.
Maybe that'll
Thank you.
help.
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. So after Sarah Stacy, the inspector who was assigned to our case after she denied the removal of the larger of the two plane trees, I did some investigating on Google Street View, which I know Urban Forestry uses, and found that over the past 4 to 5 years, these plane trees haven't been leafing out sufficiently. Here is a screenshot from May of 2018. You can see the date up at the top, and it shows the two
Your screen is
street
frozen.
trees in front of 3600 Jackson Street. Can you see the
I think your
image?
screen is frozen. I can see the Christopher Campbell tree design, but for some reason I can't see the image.
Is there any change?
No change, it's still the same.
Okay. Can you see anything now?
It says that you started screen sharing, but yes, now we can see a photo.
Now we can see Google.
Try it
Yes.
exiting out and then re-entering.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry for all this.
That's no problem.
Makes it harder to get through it.
No problem. I paused the timer, so you still have 1 minute and 5 seconds
Yeah.
left. Mhm.
So these screenshots were taken over the past 5 years. This screenshot is from May of 2019, as you can see up in the corner. And it shows that both trees, not just the smaller one, have very, very little canopy. I'm going to show another picture. Let me know if it pops up. Did it change?
No change yet. Still no
Any
change. No
Oh.
change. But that's okay. You can continue speaking and then we can have all of this sent to the hearing officer.
Okay.
But you can go ahead and state your, make your statements.
Essentially, I have several pictures that I've collected over the past 5 years during months when deciduous trees should be leafed out, and both trees have very, very few leaves. I understand that it is a concern that there are improper gardening practices happening, but I wanted to share a receipt from a gardener. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
It is from August 31st, and it says that he trimmed some trees. I did not meet with this gardener, so I couldn't confirm what trees he trimmed, but interestingly, we visited the site 2 days before August 31st on August 29th and took pictures of the trees. And on August 29th, 2 days before the gardener went, neither of the trees had many leaves. Can you see that?
Hey, excuse me, Miss Taylor, her time is up. Did you want her to continue?
No, the time is up. She can submit this because there must be something with the network. So you can submit this or a written statement, Meg.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have public comments on this? Are there any public comments for this hearing order number? I think this is hearing of order number 27679. Any public comments? Okay. In the absence of any public comments, that order number is closed. So Can we move on to the second hearing? The second hearing order number 207680, and this is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 255 Leavenworth Street. And staff has denied the removal and applicant has appealed. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and if you're not here for this case, you don't have to stay for the whole time because no decisions will be made at the hearing. So for anybody who's still there, you're welcome to leave unless you're here for this case, or for the other public comment items. So yeah, 207680, the applicant postponed, but since we did notice publicly, and I do see members of the public here, we will go through it and collect comments. And then we'll use those comments at the next hearing, or the the protesters or applicants can come to the next hearing, or we'll just submit those comments for consideration next time.
But
So
this has been postponed. This order number has been postponed.
Yeah, the applicant postponed, but there is a member of the public here, and so procedurally we have to present the case.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's the removal, of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 2555 Leavenworth, and we denied the removal and the applicant appealed. So it is declining. It's like right off the bat, you can see that. So it's kind of a situation where, like, first off, like usually a tree like this doesn't fail. It's not dangerous. And when you approve a tree for removal like this that could hang on for many years, our concern that it may not be replaced immediately, or the replacement would die. And we've all seen empty basins in the city, and it's highly disheartening. So we did say like the replacement location would be on the right. It's hard to tell whose property that is. Usually for like public works street trees, we can kind of just put them nearby. But if it's a permit application, we do need to seek a little advice on whether or not it can be replaced across property lines. I mean, sidewalk is public right of way. It's not property line, but the adjacent property owner may technically be responsible. So it's not a very high priority removal, which is why we denied it. It doesn't look fantastic, but it could hang out there for a while. And the very top of the tree is still alive, which kind of does indicate like it's not dying yet. I think the inspector wasn't strongly opposed to the removal either. But when it comes to like, when you would you rather remove a tree and potentially have issues replacing it, or just retain it and remove it when it does need to be removed? She opted to just retain the tree. And so that kind of summarizes why we denied the removal. It doesn't have the same vigor as the other trees. Yeah, so you don't really have to actually, so then you don't really have to rule on this case because it was postponed. Yeah. Yeah, so it's not a high priority removal, so we denied it, but we're not strongly opposed. That concludes our presentation for 2555 Leavenworth.
Okay, thank you. So do we have one person here? Is that public comments, or because the applicant is not here, so this must be public comments. Mr. Nolte, do you want to make your comments? Okay. Cherise, can you give him the?
Yes, I'd like to speak actually on both items. The previous item, I just wanted to say that it looked like there was possible 3 slots for that. And the other, for this tree, obviously the tree is still functional. So I would not remove either one of them. Agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the public comments we have? Okay. Now, in the absence of any other public comments, this hearing order is now closed, and this brings us to the end of this session. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Um,